Hey, good morning to you.
It is Friday.
Friday.
I like to
day.
say Friday.
Yay.
Because it's
Yeah,
a good day.
it is. It's good.
I love Fridays.
Yeah, Fridays are great. Fridays are wonderful. What are you up to today? What are you going to do this weekend? Say good morning as you jump on. Jumping on.
Jumping on, man.
Morning.
I was up
Eddie's
last
in the
night
house.
praying for the people of Ukraine and the whole situation over there.
Yeah.
Praying for everything going on in the world right now. Praying for souls. The time is drawing near. So just that burden. Praying for all of that. And then really confused by Bob Saget's cause of death in the midst of all of the news that I was ingesting yesterday. So
Yeah,
weird.
there's a lot going on in the world right now. I was reading an article specifically to the war. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation around it still, but the article I read was saying that they didn't know if it would be sustainable to be able to maintain basically that many people in that country to try to have jurisdiction over them and long-term control, and that even people within Russia are not for it. So
we saw
it should be
pictures
very
of people
interesting
rioting and protesting in Russia, and got to hear from some missionaries via Facebook on the ground, and just the difference between what the news obviously is showing versus what's actually going on in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, so be praying for them. Be praying for that situation. And, crazy stuff. So, good morning, those of you jumping on. Let's say hello to a few people. Eddie, Tina, Tammy is in the house. Good to see you. Pastor David in the house.
The penguin parade at the zoo. What is that? That is sounds amazing.
The penguin, like actual penguins, doing a parade. Like they have their own floats and stuff. Seriously, yeah. It's awesome.
I didn't know that the penguins were having a parade. That's awesome.
No, like the penguins at the zoo. Penguins at the zoo.
It's a parade of penguins?
Yes. It's parading penguins at the zoo. See, at the zoo for the kids. Not the Pittsburgh Penguins. Actual, real animals. That's interesting.
That could go either way, so.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to see a good Penguins parade? You know what I mean? So, good morning to you, Megan Hoy and Megan Campbell. Brian is in the house. Amanda.
Lindsay.
Lauren.
Good to see you, Lindsay.
Chuck
Megan.
Logan. Good to see you. Elaine. Good morning to you. Yes, at the zoo.
David. Emperor penguins.
Wow.
Pastor David needs to knows a lot about this. Macaroni penguins.
Wow. There's a lot of different kinds of penguins. Pittsburgh Penguins. Morning to you, Lindsay. Saw you and your husband on today.
So the penguins stay peaceful and don't get rowdy.
That's true. We need to pray into that today. So you brought up another, it's kind of old news now, but we were sharing it with Pastor Lem today, that Bob Saget died, and they came out with the autopsy, and there was head trauma.
I'm going to deem it as an unsolved mystery. I'm
wow.
not buying
She was like, this morning, I don't know what got into you.
Sounds a little sus, because I was up praying in the night, and I was praying about the war, and then I was looking at the news, and I see this, and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. It doesn't sit right with me.
Do you think the war is a distraction because Bob Saget's death was just a thing? I don't think it was, but I don't. How is Bob Saget's death? You believe there was something going on.
Can you tell I don't have a lot of drama in my life? So I'm like, I'm going to look a little further into, which is a good thing. I don't have drama.
Yeah, that was one of the things she said to me. One of the first things.
I brought your coffee up this morning, and I said, can we talk about this for a second? Because I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
And I was like waiting for something like, heavy. And she said,
Morning from Los
I don't
Angeles.
believe that Bob Saget's death
He
just
has been
happened.
dead for a while, David, but they just came out with an autopsy
He was dead since January, yeah.
January 9th, and it said that he
You know
actually...
the dates and everything.
I was reading in the middle of the night, which isn't a good thing.
Anyway.
He actually, they're saying he fell and hit his head.
Sounds sussy. A little sus to me.
The amount. Look into it. I don't know. I want to hear your opinion. So, anyway.
My thoughts were the twins weren't on when they relaunched the show, and I think Mary Kate had a hand in it. So
Well, I don't know what to say about that. But anyway, the whole thing
just
seems
think
a
they
little
need
suspicious.
to be investigated.
Well, the funny thing is it's a case closed. Case closed, even though it's suspicious.
Well.
But, whatever.
He thinks he passed out from the booster shot that he bragged about recently getting and fell and hit his head, then went to sleep. When he woke up, nobody's going to hurt America's dad. It's true.
That's what I thought too.
Nobody's.
That's what I thought too, Brian.
That's his conspiracy theory.
It's just strange. But then I'm like, did I even really know who Bob Saget was?
Are you sure it was Mary Kate? Chuck said.
To marry hate.
Oh. Stefan. Mary Kate to marry hate. I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway,
people do things,
neither here nor
people
there.
do things crazy.
Just things on my mind this morning.
She did respectfully disagree with my twin theory. Which one was it, or were they both involved?
I don't know.
So, anyway, what are you doing this weekend? What do you got planned?
Besides the Penguin Parade.
Yeah, Penguin Parade. Someone's looking for something. Someone likes parades.
Services this weekend. Cannot wait.
Boom. I cannot wait either. We've been in a series, been a great series on relationships, and we are going to continue in that. I agree with you, Brian. Are there even two of them? I only ever saw one at a time on the show. I agree.
Stephen, you look in the comments, there is an actual penguin parade, not to be mistaken with the Pittsburgh Penguins, which if you go, you might be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
They're actually penguins, which is also fun. But
some people...
You just need to know what you're getting yourself into.
That's right. You should go.
You show up in your full penguin
Manny
gear.
would love it. You should just do it. No,
Nope.
yeah, no, that's Erskine. That was the wrong one. I thought, for some reason. Yeah. Your kids will love it. So, anyway, it's good to see you on here today. It's going to be a great day. So we're going to jump in. We have some questions people have been asking, and we are going to...
You know what? I just feel like we have one more news update that we need to discuss.
Okay.
So one of our favorite local restaurants was shutting down. Mexican, Los Chulitos.
Yeah, this hurt.
So in an effort to eat away my sadness that they were leaving, we've been eating there every night this week.
It's true. They keep seeing me every day.
The kids thought I was joking, and I said, no, we're eating there every night because it's closing this week. And tonight is the final night we're going to eat there.
I think that's probably a good way to do it, because if you eat there every night, at some point you're like, I don't want this anymore.
I don't know that I could ever get to that point. I love Mexican food. But we get a text this morning from someone who shows us an article that they're actually not closing. They're just handing it over to different owners with a slight name change, same menu, same staff.
It's like Los Bajitos or something.
Is happy, and I'm rejoicing that I'm going to be able to eat this all the time. I thought, what a great marketing scheme.
It is.
Because it's been slammed.
Yeah, hey guys, we're shutting down. And then just gonna...
So if this is breaking news to you and you love Los Chulitos, it is actually staying open under a different name, which I can't pronounce, and I'm not going to try to butcher it. So
Stephen and Brian are finding out they work in the same area, right here on Morning Devo. So Kimberly, it has to be under 45, or they won't do the parade. Wow.
I heard it's going to be like in the 30s, so.
That's great. Well, the Lost Cholitos. That's it. They're good stuff.
Try it, Megan. You'll
Getting
love it.
sick of Los Cholitos would be like getting sick of God's anointing. It just can't happen. Pastor David's weighing in. It's true. It's hard to.
Lindsay,
It's hard.
keep on making those Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies. Beanie Babies. Did you ever collect Beanie Babies? That was kind of like our kids.
I didn't. No, I never did.
What did you collect when you were a kid?
I'm not a collector.
No, when you were a kid, you collected something. Barbies?
Yeah, Cabbage Patch Kids, Barbies.
You still have those Cabbage Patch Kids at your
No,
house?
they're long gone.
Yeah. Huh.
So, anyway.
I collected cards. Like
Your
football.
husband hates Mexican, Megan. I feel so bad for you.
Let's extend our hands. Let's pray. So, taco truck jelly beans. Wow.
Tina Marie's making enchiladas for dinner.
Wow, look at that.
Good morning, Chad. Good
Chad's
to see
in
you
the house.
tuning
Good to
in.
see you.
Well, it's Q&A Friday. And we're going to answer some questions that came in. And then if you have new questions, you can put them up in the comments as well as we're going through today. Questions on relationships that have been coming in over the past couple of days and weeks. So.
Yeah, no doubt. So, looking at relationships, what do you think about Isaac's approach to a wife? It's a good question.
Like an arranged marriage.
Well, I don't know. Was it he had somebody go find her?
Yeah.
No, that was
Too busy.
Yeah, that was interesting. So that was interesting.
Is that your thought on that?
Yeah. I'm just thinking.
Let's dive into some of those questions that we had come in. Let's see. Do you have them? You said you're going to pull them up. Let's see. All right. You ready? Mm-hmm. What's the best way to stay connected as husband and wife while we're in a season with young kids and 90% of our day is in mom and dad mode?
Whoa. Mom and dad mode. So, let's say that again.
I feel like you weren't really listening.
Best way to stay connected. Best way to stay connected. Get the kids to bed at a good time. Don't you think? Get the kids to bed. That's a good way. Get them in a regiment, a schedule. That'll give you some time at the end of the night to really connect, to communicate, to talk.
And it's funny because when they're little, you feel like that's the most challenging season to have alone time, which it is because, little people are crawling on you and they need you and all of those things. So getting them to sleep, but then as they get older, it's almost more of a challenge to get them to bed. Or when you have teenagers, they actually want to talk late at night, which is amazing. But, so it's a continual shift in adjusting and finding creative ways to connect. Now that our kids are in school, now every now and again we'll meet for lunch or breakfast or sneak away for coffee while they're in school. But during those times when they were little, getting them to bed early and then not overcomplicating things, So many times, even as women, I feel like we have to romanticize everything. And if he doesn't put roses out and, chocolates and woo me, then it's not a date. And really, just that connection is such a good date point. I've shared it before. We used to have cereal dates after the kids went to bed.
Yeah.
We would just hang out at the kitchen table and try not to. It's okay if you want to watch something together on TV, but that's not truly like a connection point that you have with your spouse.
Not really.
So really try to take some time to actually connect, whether it's over a bowl of ice cream, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, whatever it is, just try to connect. I've heard it said too before, people do what they call couch time. So as soon as your spouse comes home from work, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom taking care of those kiddos, the first thing that happens is the husband will come and sit on the couch and spend 10 minutes just husband and wife talking, connecting, how was your day? And, I've heard it said before that people would train their kids, this is the time mom and dad connect for 10 minutes before the night gets started. So, it's easy, I think, for moms and dads to get frustrated. Like we talked about on Sunday, we save the best of who we are for people who are not part of our family a lot of times. And then within the four walls of the home, we can be frustrated, we can be short with each other. And, not to fall into that where we treat our spouse as common when they come home from work, here, take the kids, or almost have that attitude of, I've been working hard all day, now you need to come and help me mode, which, we do work together, but your attitude is everything. And so not having that attitude that is not pleasant to come home to, but as a wife, creating a space that is nice for your husband to come home to and transition from a long day at work.
Yeah. Brian suggested maybe a 5 p.m. bedtime. 5 o'clock bedtime, and then you have plenty of time. I think that structure does matter. I do think you need to be intentional too, to have a date night. You're never going to feel like maybe it's the exact right time. You can always make an excuse, of like, oh, we're just so busy, or, I've been out, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. But be intentional about it. I think, getting a babysitter, if you have family in the area, or even some friends, just taking time to plan that out. Say, hey, are you able to watch the kids Friday or Saturday, or sometimes it's a Thursday night, whatever it might be. Find creative ways to be intentional about creating that space, because that connection time really does matter. The healthier you are as a couple, the healthier your family will be, the healthier your children will be, and because your relationships and your family will only be as healthy as you are as a couple.
And get it on the calendar. Even when I was going over goals with a lot of the ladies in my circle of friends, a lot of the goals were, spend more family time or date nights with my husband, cultivate that relationship. And so get it on the calendar. There will always be something that tries to interrupt you or tries to steal your time, but just map it out like it's any other appointment and say, this is a priority. So
that's it. Lindsay threw up a comment. Eddie's on as well. She said, you're off the hook. She doesn't need flowers, but the homegirl needs hibachi. Kidless. I do believe kidless too, There's something about being able to devote your full focus on somebody and just being able to engage in that conversation, or, just really saying, what, this matters enough to me to really focus on us.
Yeah.
And that's good. And so, good stuff today. But be intentional. I think, you plan out, you got to plan out these things and invest. So we need a date night. I just thought about that. We need a date night. We got to do this.
We do.
So we've been doing a master's program. So we've been working almost every night. Just feels like nonstop.
It does.
So we got to plan that out. It is good. It's all good.
We went to Disney, so that was
we did.
a
couple weeks ago, right? That was really good.
That was
a lot of fun. So, hey, let's take a look at the next one. What you got?
You said you were pulling up the question.
Well, I can, and I will. Next question. What is advice for navigating a difficult season of life? It could be financial hardship, grief, loss, job loss, whatever that looks like. What is advice for navigating difficult seasons? It's a really good question, because a lot of people didn't make it through pandemic, COVID-19. A lot of marriages ended in that time period. And so, we see that pressure and constant pressure can cause things to break down in relationships. And so I think number one is learning to identify the problem. I think step two is opening up in the right time the conversation to talk about the problem. And when we talk about the problem, I think it's important that the couples are looking for solutions, not just to state the problem.
Yeah. I love what you said, to really have those discussions. And we learned early on in our marriage not to let outside pressures or issues come in between us. Because if you let it, those pressures, you'll let them into your relationship, and all of a sudden you're taking them out on your spouse. Really get to the heart of the issue. Even this weekend we're going to be talking about women's needs and men's needs at Champion on Sunday. But, even if it is a job loss, maybe the wife doesn't feel financially secure. Maybe the husband feels insecure because he can't provide. Not letting those things to come actually and divide you, but having that conversation and knowing that you're together through those things.
Yeah.
And, to know that we're in this world, so there's going to be things that we have to face together, adversities that we have to walk through together, and that's the key, is doing it together and not letting that thing come in and divide you, and being sensitive to your spouse in that season, just letting them know that you're there for them, letting them know that you're their number one support system, instead of letting that thing divide and conquer you, which is what the enemy wants to do. He wants to get in there with strife, adversity, and really cause chaos. But, if you handle adversity as a couple in the right way, it actually makes you stronger. So.
Yeah, I think that's where you really engage your faith as a couple too. When you that's the benefit of walking with God, is it's not just on you, it's with God. You're doing this together. And if you lean into God in those times of pressure, whether it be loss or grief, we've been through really every season you can go through, as far as like, stressful seasons, pressure seasons, seasons of loss. We've been through a lot of these things as a couple. And, there's times where we really had to lean into God. There's times where we really had to communicate a little bit more. There's times where we had to have some real moments of, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I'm thinking. And I think, if you can have that, those open communication about things, when things, the problem is when we stop communicating and we just start internalizing it more, and then we find other outlets of communication where we're not talking to our spouse, we're talking to someone else about our spouse or about somebody or about the problem, instead of working on it together. And so, pressure is inevitable. Stress is inevitable. When you lean into God, though, and you lean into each other, that's what creates a stronger bond, that when you come out of it, you actually are stronger than when you went in.
Yeah.
Our marriage is stronger now than it's ever been. And that doesn't mean we're going to stop working on it now. We got to keep working, keep investing to make it great, because it takes work. Any good relationship takes work. It takes effort. It takes investment. And you've got to be willing to do that in those high pressure times.
Yeah, we were just talking to a couple, they just got engaged, and we were talking about the concept of leave and cleave. And, that really once you get married, now your loyalties are to your family unit. And when you understand that now you're a unit together, that outside sources don't have the opportunity to come into what God's created through you. And that whole concept of your loyalties are now to one another really changes your mindset to, we're taking on the world individually, to we're in this thing together. So whether that's in-laws, some people let the pressures of family and in-laws come in and get in between them and cause division, cause fighting, not letting the pressures from crazy family come in and divide you, not letting financial pressures come in and divide you. But now your loyalties, you're a team together. We're Team Miller together against any adversity that would try to come our way. And I love that, because a lot of times we don't really take that leave and cleave seriously. We almost look at marriage as a contract rather than a covenant, that, I like this person, I feel attracted to them, we're going to get married, and then everything's just going to go on from there. And really, when you say your vows at the altar, it's a beautiful act, it's a beautiful declaration in faith that you're going to walk out all of these seasons in life together and stay committed to one another.
Yeah, I think it's important too when it comes to navigating relationships with the family that with your family you would always take kind of the lead on that because you leverage your influence and your relational connection with them. For me, I did the same, and so you learn how to work that out. But you also, as you said, it's important that your new focus becomes the unit that God has made you to be. Sometimes we see in relationships where, whether many times it's probably more so the woman, there's a heavy influence on that side. And then there's so much influence from their family that it's impacting the relationship. But there's got to be that new commitment, and that's what, as even our oldest son prepares for marriage, I continue to keep speaking these biblical truths to say, listen, you're going to become your own family unit. You two your loyalties will be to one another even more than to your mother and I and our family we've raised you in. You're starting your own family, and of course we have great relationships with both him and his fiance. That we have a great relationship. So, but just reiterating, like, hey, you're building something on your own now, and you got to invest in it, and it becomes the number one priority in your life. And so that's what we did, and that's one of the things I was thankful for within our relationship. You never went off and were like telling your parents like we had a fight and we this and that, and I didn't do that with mine. Right. And so we protected our marriage.
Protect your family unit, that new unit, and not running to your mom or your sister or, whatever that is and dishing. Because what happens then is we make up and then they still have issues because, they're just hearing it, they're protective of you. And I'm sure, whenever you tell your side of the story, it's very one-sided if you're, giving the account of what happened. So being very careful to protect that unit, not to let other people's opinions come in. Make sure that you're very protective of your spouse.
That's it. That's good. Hey, this is a great question. After God, what is the most important thing to do or to focus on in relationship? After God, what is the most important thing? What would you say?
I would say myself, to make myself better.
That's good.
To continue to grow, to continue to... one of the things that we've matured through the years is when we used to get in an argument, we'd always be trying to point out the faults in the other person. And now it's, as you grow older and you become more mature, the first look, thankfully, that I try to do, not that I'm always perfect at it, is to look at myself and own the junk that I need to own. And try to look at it from the other perspective of how it could have been taken, or maybe a tone that I used that maybe could have been misinterpreted. So I think above God is really continuing to work on yourself to become the best version of you for your spouse.
Yeah, and that takes humility to work on yourself, and that's where some people can't connect. They don't have a humility about it, and so they're just going to continue to fight. When you have humility in your relationship and transparency, you can just say things and really say, this is where I went wrong, or this is where, and so when you do that, it's not about us, it's not about either one of us being perfect. It's about us progressing together and moving forward in what God's called us to.
Yeah, and even the dynamic of an argument, when you start doing that, instead of, normal is like you did this and then you did this, and it's like attack back and forth. If one of you diffuses it and says, you know what, you were right, like I'm looking at this and this is the areas that I can own up to in this disagreement, then the other person's most likely going to do the same thing and say, no, you know what, these are the areas that I could, and you're going to resolve in peace rather than just getting all your arsenal and escalating into World War III. So.
Yeah, the Bible says a gentle answer turns away wrath. Yeah. It's that principle with, if you just own what you need to own, like, listen, you're going to have to own it at some point. So if you just own what you need to own and say, listen, this is where I went wrong. Sometimes it's communicating, and you and I do this at times. It's clarifying, this is my heart, or this is what I meant by what I said. You may have heard it like this. This is what I meant. I apologize because that wasn't my intention, but let me just share my heart so that we're on the same page, and you're not assuming like I'm mad at you, or by saying this I meant anything different. And then sometimes if you are trying to say something inadvertently, then you just want to own that too. And so it's just about that humility that makes the relationship, I think, work so well, is when you have that humility. I don't need to be right. I just, here's the thing, I value our unity above the need to be right.
That's right.
I value the bond we have, the unity that we have, above me having to be right.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think that's an important thing. What are some other important focuses? That need to be in the relationship? And this could kind of get into his needs, her needs, but which I'm excited we're going to tackle some of this this weekend.
It's fun this weekend. If you're in the area, tune in. If you're not here, tune into championcenter.com or Facebook to check out the live. But we're talking about his needs and her needs this weekend. And I would say, above working on myself, but really the next area would be giving you attention. And it's easy, coming back to that whole mom and dad scenario, that I feel like I'm taking care of people all day, and you probably feel like you're taking care of people all day, to really step back. And even if it's a little touch, like returning, we preached about returning to your first love out of Revelation a couple weeks ago, but really just treating that person as valuable, as special. What would I have done in the beginning? So whether it's bringing him up coffee in the morning, taking a second, or whether he rubs my shoulders, just those little exchanges go a long way. And so not to undervalue the little exchanges that a couple can make through the day. Don't stop flirting with your spouse. Don't stop being kind. Continue that relationship and keep it growing. So.
Yeah, I think you got to keep it fresh, Never look at it like it's mediocre. How you treat it, it really does matter. How you approach it. If you don't invest anything into the relationship, or if you have kind of an attitude that, I'm just going to do this because, it's part of my job. It's part of my job as a spouse. I'm just going to do. If you have that, it's going to show at some point. And if your heart's not in it, your spouse will feel that. Yeah. If you stop, being passionate, I'm not just saying like intimacy, but although it includes that, if you stop being passionate about anything, somebody's going to feel it, and they're going to, this doesn't matter to you. Because here's the thing about marriage: what matters to you should matter to me.
That's right.
And what matters to you should matter to me, because the goal of it is, how can I serve you? If we both have that approach, how can I serve you? How can we make this better? We're going to grow that, because, again, it's not self-seeking.
That's right.
So it's important for me to understand your needs just as much as you to understand mine, And so, communicating and making that communication connection is important to a woman. Yeah. So if a man's just kind of going through the motions and, he's not really wanting to do that, it's going to show. Same thing with intimacy. One of the man's needs is intimacy. If a woman's like, oh, I just got to check this off the box, and her heart's not in that, there's no passion, there's no investment, it's going to show. Yeah. When your heart's not in something, it shows it ends up being a problem, because what you're saying is, this really doesn't matter to me. And so I think there needs to be high communication about these things.
Definitely. And, all throughout the day, a lot of times we think of intimacy as, that time that you spend together. But really those investments are building up to that intimacy, throughout your day. So, not waiting until, the kids are in bed, now being interested in your spouse, but making those exchanges all day long. And Kimberly, I'm so glad that you came to your first Chick Church.
It's good.
I pray that you had an amazing time. We have been married for, is it going to be 23 years?
Yeah,
We've been 23 for 22 years. 23 years in August.
Yep.
Been married, and we have 5 kiddos. So
yeah.
It has been quite an adventure.
It has.
Amazing adventure.
So good.
So fun. We almost missed our plane to the honeymoon. I should have known it was going to be an adventure from that point
It
on. We
has
got
been.
lost. We didn't have GPS back then. And we were sprinting through the airport to catch our one-way, because they only went once a week at that point, flight
We had a good time
to
with that.
Aruba. So
Yeah.
lots of good memories that we had.
Yeah.
It's been one adventure after the next.
Yes.
But so good.
So good. Hey, great to see. I see Dawn and Ron in the house, the Snyder brothers. You guys are amazing. Appreciate both of you. Anna, good to see you. It is the little things. It's the little investments. Kyle's in the house saying good morning. Great to see all of you.
Look at that. The
Kimberly.
Snyder brothers checking in. Our GMC
Boom.
is ready.
Yes, that is great. Great
What a
news.
blessing they are.
I know, man. They're
Keep
amazing.
us on the road. So.
Good morning, Caroline. Great to see you in the house. Kimberly's wedding date is the same exact date as ours.
Wow,
8/6.
anniversary. That was a
Look
good
at that.
day.
That
We
was.
got married on a Friday night.
Yes. Tina brings up a great point, and she said words of affirmation go a long way.
They do.
That leads us really to a great discussion, and I think Lindsay mentioned it earlier in the session this morning, is love languages. People have a love language, you
Great
know.
book if you're looking for a good read to read
Gary
to
Chapman,
grow in your relationships.
The 5 Love Languages, and it basically deals with words of affirmation, acts of service. We have
Physical touch.
serving one, acts of service, I already said that. We
Gifts.
have gifts, which is one of your strengths or languages. And then the last one is, we already said acts of service.
Physical touch, acts of service, words
Somebody
of
help us out.
affirmation, gifts, and what's that last one?
So we'll get it. Somebody will come up with it. Quality time.
Quality time. I am a quality time
Yes,
person too.
Lindsay,
if
you think
haven't
you would have
understood
said that?
I know.
Do you really think you're quality time?
I am, and you can agree to this, because if we haven't connected for a while, I'll kind of like almost shut down or put a wall up.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how we respond?
Isn't it funny
When
how
there's
what I
something
really
wrong.
need is quality time, but yet it makes me put a wall up when we don't get it?
Because you're mad at you. You're mad at me. And I do that. It's funny how you do it, and you're like, I put up a wall. I do that sometimes about certain things, or I'll like put up a wall. And we're so busy, we really have to guard it. Like, so it's good, because I think that's one of the things that after 23 years we've tried to do better is like, we fight a whole lot less. We
really don't fight.
like,
I mean,
the other day, like,
It's not like we don't disagree. But
we had a
we take
disagreement
too
the other
much
day,
energy.
and I think here's my thing. My point now is like, you know what? I'm just gonna say what I did wrong, and when I do that, what happens is if there's anything you did wrong, you usually come to the table with that too. It just fast tracks everybody. I'm like, you know what? I could see how you would think that, or I could see why this can't. You know, so I think it's just that humility to say, I value our unity above me being right about the situation. But those are important to understand how we connect. Yours is quality time. Mine would tend to be maybe words of affirmation, physical touch, those things, I would say.
Yeah, and you know, if that's not your love language, you really have to work hard and be intentional to do it. Like, I'm not a physical touch person, so I have to really be mindful that means a lot to my spouse. So, so really taking time to find out what speaks love to them, and then be intentional to speak that. A lot of times we just are very focused on what we feel like love is, and then we don't give them what they need. And I could be like, well, hey, you know, we spent tons of quality time together. Why don't you feel all lovey-dovey? And he could be like, well, you know, that's great, but really, you haven't like even put your hand on my shoulder or anything lately. I need to know.
That's good.
That
That's
way,
good.
so.
Kyle threw up a good book, Love and Respect. That's a great book.
It is a good book.
So Cam said, you got to make the money to feed that honey. You know what I mean? Papa got to make some bread. Papa got to get the bread out of the oven. So listen, that really comes down to the gift giving, as you said. But knowing what it is that connects, because in a relationship we're so quick to think about what I need. But I think just having those tune-ups, if you want to call it, like a marriage tune-up. Like, hey, when we go out on a date night, we're not going to like do it in a negative, demeaning way, but what are some things we can tune up? What are some things we can tweak? What are things we can make better? A great question to ask your spouse, how can I serve you better? What is it, And if you know their love language, maybe it's investing a little bit more into that area. You asking one another that question on a date night.
Yeah.
Not in the middle of a fight, but on a date night, where things are good. What I find is when you're investing when things are good, it really does eliminate more and more of the negative and the bad stuff. So it's that constant, let's talk about it before it gets bad. That's
So
what I always like to say. Let's foresee a possible issue, and let's talk about it now before it is actually an issue. Whether that's in our relationship, whether that's in a friend or another family member. Hey, this is not a problem now, but let's talk about this so that it never becomes that problem. Let's get it out in the open and let's talk about it.
I love this, and you need to continue to like reevaluate and define your relationship, because what happens is, especially when you get married early, you set certain standards, and maybe your spouse always reacted a certain way, or maybe there was a topic that you always fought over that was always a point of contention. And then through the years, maybe your spouse changed, or maybe you grew, or maybe you say it was finances, and you always used to fight about finances, but now you're more financially well off, so it's not an area of stress anymore. But not to let those things corner or define you in a way that you just think your spouse is always going to react like that, or that is just always going to be an area of contention in your relationship. To really make your relationship fluid and flexible, that you're growing in it, that you don't just always tag that person as stubborn. I mean, heaven forbid that the Lord actually did a work in them, and they've changed and grown and matured. I mean, we got married when we were barely 20, and we had a lot of growing up and maturing to do. And if we would still see each other in the eyes of that 20-year-old in some of our immature areas, it would cause issues in our relationship. But to say, you know what, we've grown through this. This isn't an issue anymore. We don't respond like this anymore.
Yeah, and sometimes just letting go and resetting your mind, or maybe you had a negative pattern. Maybe like you said, you had a negative pattern, but you, as that spouse, maybe they grew through it and they grew out of it, but you as a spouse go back to that's your default mode, how you think of them, how you respond to them, and you need to change that. You need to renew your mind and realize that they're going to keep progressing. There's no perfect people. We're just all progressing. And so the more we progress in the things of God and grow up into the things of God, the better our relationships become. And so not holding someone's past against them, we don't bring up each other's past, and any time that had happened in the past, we've just said, like, listen, we're not going to talk about this. This is like the past, or this is like an old version of you, or the old you, or what. We don't talk about that. We don't bring up the negative. We don't bring up, think about it. God doesn't do that with us. God doesn't bring up our sins or our mistakes to us. We have really no legal right as children of God to bring up an offense of the past. That actually is the accuser of the brethren, Satan.
That's right.
So we never want to align ourselves with the accuser, Satan, where we're pointing out someone's faults, or we're pointing out their past. We should be always speaking to the present, and really even going beyond that, speaking to what we are becoming in the Christ.
That's
and
right.
so I think it's so important to guard that. Along those lines, we don't the D word. We don't say the D word. The divorce is never going to be a topic on the table for us. And so, whatever that looks like, even when things are hard, we're committed. We're committed to that. We're committed to one another. We're committed to this relationship. And this relationship is not just you and I. We're committed. I'm committed to Jesus and Joey. And that's the key. When I have that commitment, Jesus and Joey in that order, then our relationship's going to be great. And when you have that order, that Jesus and Nathan is the priority, then we're not going to break up. Like, this thing's only going to grow, and it's only going to get better. So I think these are just some great tools how you can continue to grow your marriage. And I think that's especially when we talk about it. is just, these are great principles to make sure you're keeping on the forefront of your relationship. Because here's the thing, you might do it good right now in this season, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it right in the next, and you got to keep on doing the things that got you there.
Keep adjusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good. So it is good.
That's so good. So much good stuff. Marriage tune-up. That is, Caroline, that's good. Marriage tune. Having that moment where you say, how can we get better? Let's talk about your needs. Let's talk about my needs. Let's talk about how we can serve one another better. And when that's the approach, how can I serve you better? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better... Whatever that looks like, how can I serve you? When we have that mindset, it really becomes an amazing relationship that God continues to bless. God continues to grow when you get it right like that. So, good stuff.
So good. So good.
Wow,
and
great
it makes me excited
feedback.
about Sunday to continue our marriage discussion. We had a marriage conference. One of you asked, I think it was last month, right around Valentine's Day, and we have those yearly. So every February we have an emphasis on marriages and couples. So
with Kyle, we'll leave with this question. With having a lot of kids, do you have tips for keeping your spouse second to the Lord instead of kid 1, kid 2, kid 3, kid 4, then the spouse? With young kids, there are a lot of distracting texts. That's a great question. And we're actually going to do 1 week. We haven't even announced this, but we're going to be doing 1 week on parenting.
at the end of our series on...
Yeah, not this week, the following week, we are going to do something on parenting. So you're going to hear a little bit more about that. But the quick answer is this: especially when they're younger, they demand so much more of you. But I want to encourage you, life's going to get easier in the sense that they're going to become more independent. And then there's just different challenges with that. But I want to say this, you need to model out to your children so that they know that mom or dad is first, even in front of them. Mm-hmm. And you do that in a loving way, obviously. But, you know, mom and dad, we're talking right now. Can you give us a couple minutes? We'll be right with you. Mom and dad need about 10 minutes. So when you get home from work, mom and dad need 10 minutes to connect. Like you said, that couch time. Mom and dad are going out on a date. And the more you teach them that this is the priority, it sets them up for success in relationships ultimately.
And you know, and really knowing that as a mom, because that mom guilt is a real thing. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's spending some extra time with your spouse, going on a date, it's easy to feel guilty that you're leaving your kids, or your kids
Sure.
will even, because they're very selfish when they're little, make you feel bad about it. You know, don't leave me. Why are you leaving me again?
We had that, you know, especially, you know, when our youngest, she was a baby.
And let me just say, one of my love languages is quality time. So not only do I try to give him quality time, but with my children, quality time is very, very important to me. So I would feel like I was maybe doing them a disservice if we went on a date or whatever. So, but really, you know, as a woman, making that a priority that we're going to get a babysitter. It's okay. My kids are going to live if we go out for 2 hours. It's going to be fine. And not be in such a rush to get back home, or so worried about them when you're out that you're checking your phone all the time. And then on a man's end, to not put that pressure upon your wife in that season that is unrealistic. So yes, you have to have grace and you have to spend time together, but don't put so much pressure on her, because a lot of times women can feel like, I can't do it all, I have nothing more to give, I'm trying to take care of these babies. So really being gracious and finding those little ways to connect, and really acknowledging one another in that season is so important. I
think establishing it, you know, let me just say this too. Your family time with your kids does not equal spouse time.
No.
That's family time. You know, when my kids are with us, it's not us time. It's us all. So, you know, I think you can't just say, well, we were together as a family, and that doesn't count for spouse time. It's you two being alone together. That is really where you have each other's undivided focus and attention.
And really, that's where things start to go off track.
Yeah.
Is whenever couples get busy with kids and then they start to build two separate lives, really.
Yeah, I think you have to, here's what you do. You say, Mom and Dad we're going to have a family time. And this is what we're going to do this week as a family. But also, Mom and Dad are going to go out on a date. Or Mom and Dad are going to do this. And so it's showing them they're a priority and saying, we're going to have time together. We're going to have a fun time at night. Maybe you create a movie night at your house or whatever. But Mom and Dad, tomorrow night, Mom and Dad are going on a date night. But tonight is all about our family.
Well,
and so learning to let them, having them understand that they're a part of that, but that you need time as a couple. Because, again, I think this is a misconception that, we just don't need us time. Well, as long as we're always together. If your kids are with you, that's not couple time.
No, yeah.
That's illegal.
Well, and really, your kids don't, I know this is shocking, they don't know what they need and they don't know what's best for them. So in their selfish nature, they'll be like, oh, don't leave, or we want to come too,
I want mommy, I want that. You do good with that, though.
When you get alone with your spouse, it actually brings security to them, that they feel like Mom and Dad are good, they love each other. So they don't know how to communicate what they need. But when you do that, they need that security. They need that foundation. My parents never went on dates, hardly ever. And whenever they would, I would be so inwardly happy. I just felt happy. I just felt secure.
I was just going to say, you felt a sense of security.
Yeah, right.
Because if they're good, I'm good.
That's
if they're not good, the children are not going to be good. Your family is only as strong as your marriage.
That's right.
And so sometimes I would just say this to the kids. When Mom and Dad spend time together and when we invest, everybody's going to be better.
That's right.
Our whole family's going to be better. And it's true. It's so true, because the stronger and the healthier we are, the stronger and healthier our kids become, and the more secure they feel. And the opposite is true. When there's more fighting, more things, it creates an insecurity in children. Is everything all right? Is Mommy and Daddy going to be okay? Are they going to stay together? There's a lot that can impact them. So you have to make your spouse the highest priority above your in-laws, above their family, and above your children too. Because some people miss one, some people get them both wrong. But you should leave and cleave, and then you should remain the focus and the number one priority even after you have kids. And so I know a lot of people that get it wrong when they do that. But man, we are out of time. That was phenomenal. What a great time together we had today, and a lot of great questions.
Always fun to answer your questions. Join us on Sunday as we continue our Keep It 100 marriage and relationship series. You're not going to want to miss this Sunday.
Yes, it's true, Lindsay. I did. I'm always, So, hey, great to be with you today. We love you all. Man, you all are amazing, Chant fam, and we can't wait to see you this Sunday. Until this Sunday, God bless you, and remember this, God has set you up to be a champion in this life. We'll see you real soon. Hey, what a great morning. Man, it was so good to be with you guys today.
There's not a better way to start off your morning than in the Word and here with us at Champion Christian Center. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, so a couple ways we want you to help us out. Share this broadcast. If you already haven't, thank you so much for being a part of this. But share it. Let somebody else hear this word today that is going to bless them and transform their lives. The second thing you can do is you can give. You can sow to this ministry, and you can see information on the screen on how you do that. Thank you for being a faithful partner and sowing into this ministry, what God is doing. And let's talk about ways they can get connected to us.
Yes, if you enjoy these morning devos and you want to listen to more, you can go to our YouTube page or you can download the Champion app, and they're available on our Champion podcast. So you can go and listen if you're in the car, doing laundry, whatever it is, get the Word of God into you through the morning devos.
Yes, also you can see there's ways you can connect with us personally through social media platforms. Again, as she said, podcasts. We would love to see you, more of you, you are part of the Champ fam today. Well, we love you. Thanks for being with us today. God bless you. And remember this.
God set you up to be a champion in this life.